Hey guys, Ben Quintero here, Honeydew Homestead. If you have um, tomatoes or vining plants like cucumbers or anything that you're trying to trellis, one of the popular things that you'll find on YouTube is to use cattle panels. A lot of times people will bend cattle panels over, or they'll put cattle panels up on some T-posts or something like that, and that certainly is an option. The problem with that is that everything is so expensive right now. I don't know. They used to be like 20, maybe $30. Now they're like astronomical prices. Anyways, I have a much more affordable option for you, and let me show you what that is. That's it. Mason string. So mason string is what I could find at the big box store. If you're a little bit, this is what I had available. Let me just say that. This is not my first choice. You can use twine or jute string, but mason line is nylon based, and you know it stretches a little bit and it lets you get a nice good tight line. And obviously the problem with nylon is that it's not exactly biodegradable, so if you were looking to then compost all of your vines at the end of the season, you kind of have to cut the string all out of it because it just turns into a giant matted mess. Whereas if it was jute, you could technically just cut the string and everything and dump the whole thing in the pile, and it's all going to decompose. It's all natural. And that's the only problem with using this. However, this costs $5 or $10. You know, you can get one a roll of like 250 feet or something like that for like less than $10, compared to like whatever $100 that it costs for like one cattle panel. And so let me show you real quick how to use this. So basically what I do is I take that mason line or twine or whatever you have, and I tie it to both ends of that T-post. Always making sure that I'm tying at the same height on both sides. What makes this easy is that most T-posts either have a small hook or some notch, and you can just count the notches to get roughly to about the same height, as long as the T-posts are both stuck in the ground around the same depth. What's important here is that you do your best to try to get a good tight line. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'll show you why here in the next step. After we've finished running that first line, you can go ahead and add another, or maybe even 2 or 3, depending on the height of your T-posts. My T-posts only happen to be 5-foot T-posts, and so I did just fine with 3 horizontal lines. That's usually more than enough for tomatoes or green beans or any type of vining plant to latch onto and have something to hang onto as well. Now here's the next part that's really important. If you were to just leave those lines running across on their own, they would most likely collapse under their own weight, especially once you start adding 20-30 pounds of vine and greens and fruit on those lines. They're going to collapse really fast, and they might even break. So the trick here is you have to have some sort of support in the middle. What I chose to do was run vertical lines and tie each one of those vertical lines to the horizontal lines. Now you don't need any fancy knot here, just a single loop, just something to give it a knuckle to hold on to each one of those horizontal lines. Make sure you leave enough slack down at the bottom to give you something to wrap around the plant as an anchor. Now, how many vertical lines you run, that's totally up to you. You can run one for every plant that you have in the ground, or you can run one every couple of feet. It really depends on how much fruit you plan on having on that netting and how much weight you think your line can hold. The more lines you have, the more weight you can hold. And that really is it. Like I said, this was going to be a quick one, and all I wanted was to show you a very affordable way to create some vertical trellising if you already have a few T-posts and maybe a little piece of conduit to run across. Now, the T-posts with the conduit running across, that was not my idea. You may want to go look at Josh Satin. He's a market farmer. Trellis to Make You Jealous, I believe, was the video on YouTube. You can just look for that and you'll find his channel. He's very much focused on market gardening, but he does have a lot of really good content there if you're just in general interested in growing or interested in the business of growing, not just homesteading. But like I mentioned, that's pretty much it for this tip for you guys. You just run some horizontal mason lines or twine, you knot some vertical twines to those, and what you have is effectively a trellis. Now, keep in mind, hog panels, they're tough, they're strong, they can literally hold back hogs and cattle, but we're talking about cucumbers here. And so you don't necessarily need a $100 beefy steel cage to hold on to a couple of tomatoes or some cucumbers. It is nice and it looks pretty, not necessary. So this is an option if you don't have the money to spend on that, or maybe you got some mason lines sitting around. You can go out there right now today and make this happen in your garden. So as always, you guys, be good, and I'll see you on the next one.